Sometimes we need to fail in order to realize how far we've fallen. Once we gather ourselves, we can use those mistakes to rebuild something truly amazing. This happens to everyone. Even very successful companies need a hard reset sometimes. What was once spoken in negativity was then presented as new and embraced by the masses. One of the best Nintendo consoles has secured its spot to be the least remembered gaming machine in all of Nintendo history. It was a mess created out of confusion. People didn't understand it, and Nintendo didn't sort out the details in time. Over a short period, the world turned its back on what they used to love. Going back to 2006, the Wii was released to critical acclaim. People went absolutely nuts for it. Stores couldn't keep it in stock. It was underpowered but was easily accessible because of the unique controller. Real-life movements controlled games that mimicked real life. It appealed to everybody because of the basic concept. Who hasn't witnessed their parents try to play a game with a traditional controller and watch them move and sway the controller in the direction they want the playable character to go? It came out at the exact right time. It didn't hurt that it was backwards compatible with the previous Nintendo machine either, the GameCube. It was a massive success. It ended up selling over 100 million units over its lifetime. It's the 6th best-selling console of all time. So what would be the most logical step for Nintendo? To capitalize on the past success of their current console, right? That's exactly what they did. The next Nintendo console would be built upon what the Wii established. It added full backwards compatibility with the Wii. It would also go on to push its legacy even further. A whole new controller called the Gamepad. It would be introduced along with the machine. It added a touchscreen in the center of all the buttons and sticks, giving the player another screen to reference or use during gameplay. It was ambitious. They made it mandatory to use the gamepad to access any game. But the biggest leap forward for this console was the addition of the HDMI port. It was the first Nintendo console to feature one. A Nintendo console could finally play games in HD. This also allowed us to play original Wii games on modern TVs over HDMI output. What would this revolutionary next step console be called? In true Nintendo fashion, they decided to call it the Wii U. Does it mean Wii plus U can play together, or does it mean Wii University? The console itself looks very similar to the Wii. It's because of these three things that the Wii U ended up being misunderstood: the gamepad, the design, and the name. Was it a console revision? Was the gamepad an expensive add-on for your Wii? Was it a new console altogether? This could have all been remedied with a better name. It could have been called the Wii 2, which is why it's so infuriating that they called it the Wii U. For those of us who took the plunge and bought the Wii U, it was one of the best consoles we've ever played. The wonky gamepad actually isn't so wonky. In fact, it's one of the most comfortable controllers I've ever used, though the battery life isn't all that great. I never had any problems keeping it plugged in while I was playing. The best part of the Wii U is by far the games. The games that were made for this console are some of the best games Nintendo has ever made. Games such as Super Mario 3D World, The Legend of Zelda The Wind Waker HD, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, Mario Kart 8, Bayonetta 2, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, New Super Mario Bros. U, and one of the best platformers ever made and my favorite Wii U game, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. All of these games are worth buying and playing. Even if you're sick of the new Super Mario games, this is still a fun Mario platformer. I couldn't wait for each first-party game to be released. I knew that if the game was coming from Nintendo, it was most likely going to be good. There aren't many third-party games that are notable for the Wii, with exceptions like DuckTales Remastered, Zombie U, Rayman Legends, and the wonderful 101. However, those of us who bought a Wii U did so to play the first-party titles. These games are so much fun. It's a shame that only a handful of us took the chance on the Wii U, because the games that were made for it were some of the best. Nintendo waited to release its final Wii U game the day that its next home console released. The Switch also received that game on launch. The game all of us Wii U owners waited so long for, the massively hyped The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. This release was methodically planned by Nintendo. They knew that this Zelda game was going to be a console seller. Instead of releasing it on a failing console that was showing its age, They decided to delay the release to fall on the launch day of the Switch. This was the best decision they could have made. Not only did everybody who pre-ordered the Switch buy it, it was actually given a chance to succeed. I pre-ordered the Switch along with Breath of the Wild. I didn't pick it up for the Wii U until I saw it on sale. I do believe that you should experience this game on the Wii U, as this was the console that it was originally developed for. I think that has some merit when playing any video game. The Switch, in essence, started its life out with a high-profile port. Little did I know or expect, this trend would continue. The best games the Wii U had were slowly released as the months and years went on. Mario Kart 8, Bayonetta 2, New Super Mario Bros. U and Super Luigi U, Lego City Undercover, though this was released on other platforms after initially being a Wii U exclusive. Hyrule Warriors, Pokken Tournament, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, and of course, Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. How were these games received by the Switch community? They were embraced with both arms. After all the negativity I'd been hearing and reading about the Wii U, the very essence of what that console is, the games, were selling like crazy and defining what the Switch is. These games are a big reason as to why the Switch is the success it is today. These games were always great. I don't understand why people wouldn't get on board just because of the console design. Literally, these are the exact same games I've been playing for years. The stigma the Wii U had hindered these games from performing well. I love seeing people defend their stance that the Wii U was horrible, but the Switch is so much better because of, reasons. I love both systems. I've been asked if I was upset that Nintendo decided to port all these games to the Switch, effectively wiping the Wii U from everyone's memory. I didn't have to buy these games again, I already own them. Having most of my favorite Wii U games on the current console that can also be played as a handheld is a dream come true. It's been great having them on airplanes and car trips. They've also been upscaled to 1080p versus the 720p the Wii U used to output games. They all look amazing on the Switch. I'm extremely happy that they were given a chance to succeed. There's no denying that they severely underperformed on the Wii U, though I wish they would have released new games in their place as I had already played and beat most of them. It would have been nice to see new entries made for those respective franchises, but I understand why it was this way. Nintendo was able to make money they should have made when they were on the Wii U, and they were able to roll these games out between highly anticipated releases. After all, ports for other systems is not a new thing for any console. If you just think about how many Zelda games have been ported over to new systems, even consecutive systems, it's clear that it's a trend that's been going on for decades. The Legend of Zelda, Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, Ocarina of Time, and Majora's Mask were all released on the GameCube on the Legend of Zelda Collector's Edition disc. Ocarina of Time also had a standalone release on the GameCube which also featured the Master Quest. The Wii launched with Twilight Princess, which also released on the GameCube. It also famously had the Virtual Console, which allowed us to download all the retro titles from the NES, SNES, and N64. The Wii U has the best versions of the Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Both are remastered in HD and have quality of life improvements. Twilight Princess doesn't have the motion controls, and the Wind Waker has the option to get the Swift Sail. The Virtual Console returned with all the previous VC titles returning, with the addition of the Minish Cap from the Game Boy Advance and both the DS titles Phantom Hourglass and Spirit Tracks. Skyward Sword can also be played and downloaded, though I'm not sure if it's considered a Virtual Console game. You can also play the original Zelda and Zelda 2 along with A Link to the Past if you have the online service. That's a look at only one franchise. Though it's a high-profile franchise, it is still only one. Porting games to a new console isn't new and it won't end with the current console generation. These games have propelled the Switch into heights nobody expected after the disappointment of the Wii U. It's off the back of the Wii U that made it possible. If it weren't for that failed and forgotten system, the Switch never would have been.